Thank you very much. This presentation is a subset of our corporate presentation, so I do refer you to our website for the full suite. So Nusantara, we IPO'd in August last year. We raised $16 million. It was the largest gold IPO in the last 5 years. So we've had a great support from our shareholders, and we've been very busy delivering on the promises that we had made through the prospectus. So our vision is to grow to a substantial Asia-Pacific gold project or business, and our Arak Mas project is our key cornerstone project. Arak Mas was actually discovered in the late 80s and has had a whole range of owners going through the project doing drilling and studies. But we firmly believe in the project, and we're totally committed in driving this project forwards into development and into construction. So where are we at now? It's a 2 million ounce gold resource. We have a reserve of 1 million ounces. That brings us to a 10-year mine life of about 100,000 ounces a year. The area that we're in Sulawesi is endowed with good infrastructure, ports, airfields, power. We have all the project approvals in place for construction, so we're kind of ready to go. The area has been underexplored within our contract to work, so there's huge potential for us to find further discoveries within that area. And I'll talk about this further. We don't have any divestment requirements for this project for 10 years after production. So no divestment requirements. And many people still don't understand what's going on in Indonesia, and I'll talk about that later. So if we all go well, we're targeted for gold production in 2020. We've assembled a really great management team and board who have huge experience operating and developing base metals and gold projects, but particularly with a focus on Indonesia and Asia Pacific. Through the IPO, we're very supportive shareholders of Lion Selection Group, who own 32%, Australian Super at 10%, and for us, very importantly, Zhaozeng Mining, which is a large Chinese gold producer, came on board through the IPO and currently have 4% and are obviously very interested in this project as we go and develop it. So if you look at this chart, Arak Mas is one of the premium undeveloped gold projects in the Asia Pacific. When you rate it at 100,000 ounces a year, 1 million ounces of reserve, and an opportunity for a mine life over 10 years, it becomes a really solid investment performer going forwards. So this is why we think Arak Mas is a good deal. And at the moment, the Australian share market does not appreciate the value that you see in Arak Mas. If you look at the fact that we're halfway through a DFS that'll be delivered in July, you've got a 1 million ounce reserve, and we're in a very stable jurisdiction that has a great history of gold mining, we firmly believe that we are undervalued within the market, and it becomes a very great investment opportunity for everyone, given as the project will advance into construction. So Indonesia, I'm sure many of you have been to Bali, and you think of Bali as a tourist mecca and the beaches, but Bali is actually just a small part of an Asia powerhouse. Indonesia has 250 million people spread across the archipelago. As shown by this graph, the GDP has more than doubled in the last 10 years. Their annual growth is 5%. The investment in the country in infrastructure and resource projects, from smeltering all the way through to mines, is enormous. It is a great place to do business. And in fact, mining has been very successful by both Indonesian-owned and foreign-owned miners. So if you look at the value drivers of this project, has a low strip ratio, 3.5, has high gold recoveries of 91%, production rate of 2.5, as I said, very strong established infrastructure. We have low-cost grid power, and all the approvals are in place for construction. And it's in non-forestry land, which means that we don't have any requirements to get approvals for land rehabilitation and clearing. So when you think about it, this project, we own 100% of the project. It is a 7th generation of contract of work, but in March we signed an agreement with the Minister of Mines in Indonesia that reaffirmed that we are the tenure holders of this project till 2050. And there are no other owners of the project except ourselves. And in that arrangement, we also came with an agreement that we did not need to divest the project until the 10th year of production. So in the current thinking, we have no need for any forced divestment of this project until 2030. And even if we were in that position, that divestment would be at fair market value that we would all understand in normal transactions for mining investment. And on top of that, as I said, the environmental approvals are in place and the government of Indonesia has given us approval for construction. So this project is very much a development-ready project, clear stability of title, a long-term stability of investment of 10 years, a project that is very advanced through DFS and is almost ready for construction, final in financial approval. So if we just quickly look at some of the technical aspects, this is a large gold system, 2 million ounces of gold across the COW, of which 86% of it sits in the AWAC mass deposit. So a very large deposit, 45 million tonnes at 1.4 grams a tonne. We've now completed a 10,000 metre drilling program that not only increased the resource by 15%, but allowed us to bring up the overall indicated resource category to 89%. So that provides strong confidence that the resource can be delivered as we go into mining. The reserve is 1 million ounces, and yesterday we made an announcement of upgrading the resource, including an extra 200,000 ounces of indicated material, which hasn't been flowed through into the reserve yet as the mining engineers do their studies. As I said before, high production rates, 2.5 million tonne production rates over 10 years, very, very low strip ratio, which drives low mining costs, and also quick start-up and low strip ratios in early years. We have multiple sources. There's the AWAC mass deposit. There's also the satellite deposit of Salubulu. We've completed the first pass mine design and cost estimation in the DFS. And as the DFS progresses through to completion in July, the team are busy on optimising mine design, materials handling aspects, waste dump designs, all of those other things that allow us to drive improved value going forwards. And as part of that work, we'll do a final ore reserve update in July when the DFS comes to completion. Processing. This project has very simple metallurgy. It's a very clean ore. It has very little other elements other than the gold. So it's a whole of ore leaching, very simple. Grind it to 75 microns, put it through the leaching process and pull out a recovery between 90 and 94% and a project average of about 91, 92. It's a moderate grind, so it has very, very moderate power costs, work indexes of 12.5, and all of our test work shows that this project has a very moderate reagent consumption. So whilst you see that mining costs will be low at a very low strip ratio, the metallurgy and processing costs are also low because the material is very amenable to gold recovery. Tailing storage will be done in a valley-filled tailings facility that's not too far from the mine, and given the nature of the material, there's no high deleterious elements in that tails that would cause you any concern. So infrastructure, I think, is a real key game changer for this project and sets us aside from some of our peers who are also in that same bucket of 1 million ounce projects. We're only 45 minutes flight from the Sulawesi major town of Makassar. Makassar is a 2 million kind of size people population, international ports, international airstrips, large universities, large hospitals. It's a Brisbane type centre, so it provides us with all of the facilities that we need to construct this mine, and it's only 45 minutes flight. Once we're on the ground, the mine is about a 2.5 hour drive inland from the airport, and from the main town of Balopa, we're about 40 kilometres. The National Power Company, PLN, we've signed an agreement with them and an MOU for them to develop a grid power facility into the mine. And as part of that agreement, they have already installed power into the camp, and that power will also be used for construction. So we moved away from isolated power stations that are high cost, high capital and operating a lot of logistics. And on top of that, there are port facilities at Balopa and Palopa. The whole area is used to mining. If those who know Sulawesi will know that there are large nickel smelters, nickel manufacturing units, stainless steel refineries, there's gold operations, nickel mines. So the whole region has a workforce and a rationale and an understanding of mining. It's very much a stable community that is very, very interested in attracting an investment. It is so important that the Australian government actually has a consul general and a consulate in Makassar. All right, so that's the region that Australia believes will be an important place for them to put influence in Indonesia as it goes forwards. So whilst the mine is attractive and we've done the work to bring it up to a DFS status and definitely now as a major robust project that has long-term returns, our focus is now really turning on the rest of the COW. This COW is 14,000 hectares and very little exploration has been done on the area beyond the known deposits. As you can see on this slide, the red dots represent previous trenching and drill hole data that has never been followed up. And if you can read the numbers, some of these represents 2-4 grams per tonne trenching and diamond drill hole intersections that have never been followed up. So our focus is clearly on extending our exploration potential so we can look for first projects that are near the mine corridor, near our processing plant, between the deposits of Awak Mas and Spreadborough, and then also the eastern corridor between the deposits of Spreadborough and Tara. So this is straight up greenfields potential that people haven't focused on in the past. And if you look at that area, the priority area between Awak Mas and Spreadborough, so on this slide, Awak Mas is the large 40 million tonne deposit on the left, Spreadborough is a bit smaller on the right. Our drilling already has extended the Awak Mas deposit to the east towards Spreadborough. This is an area that previous owners had said the mineralisation did not extend beyond the High Wall Fault. Well, we challenged that and the geology team have been very successful in demonstrating that mineralisation continues. So our challenge now is to continue that work and identify hopefully repeat mineralisation and structures towards Spreadborough. So across the whole COW, the potential for us to expand our 2 million ounce resource and our million ounce reserve is extremely high. So if you sit back and look at where this project's at, you know, we've now got a long tenure. The government has purely and clearly delineated that we are the owners of this COW and that we don't have any divestment requirements. It's a very large mineral endowment, both in terms of resources and reserves. A very long life, a 10-year mine life as a first up base case, producing 100,000 ounces. There are very few of those in Asia Pacific, let alone in the world, that are going to go into construction in such a short period of time and an early turnaround for gold production. Huge potential to grow the reserve and the resource, obviously, through drilling. Because of the nature of the mine and the metallurgy, this is a low-cost mining and processing operation. We provide substantial guidance around $700 and $750 US an ounce all-in sustaining costs, with a capex of between $150 and $170 US. Projects approvals are in place for us to get on the ground and start digging dirt and doing construction of roads and processing plants. And as I've talked about, the area has great infrastructure. Makassar is a great facility for us as an inbound port for goods across the world, and also the international airport allows us to bring people from all over the world into Makassar. The DFS is due in July and is very well on track for delivery, and as I said, production is targeted in 2020. So we firmly believe that this is a premier project in the Asia Pacific, and we think it's a great opportunity going forwards with a great upside potential as we do out more drilling. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.